Hey everyone, this is Geeky Vices with J-Belle, where I talk about bits of geekdom and pop culture that I've been into lately. You may not see a cameo from Jazz, who's literally right here, my very handsome and cuddly tuxedo cat. So yeah, my general vibe for my show is that I describe as being unrehearsed, unedited, unhip. I don't care about what's the latest and greatest. I just kind of go with whatever my whims take me. I am also spoilers light. I try avoiding the major spoilers, but if you don't want any spoilers at all, enjoy my content after you've watched the subject I'm talking about, which hint, hint, hint. So this week I am talking about Food Wars, which I actually can remember the Japanese name for once because it's pretty easy. It's called Shokugeki no Soma. And the main reason I can remember that is because the concept of Shokugeki is very prominent in the anime, and Soma is the name of the main character. So I'm going to try being brief about this. This got recommended to someone who basically made a guest appearance at our D&D game, and we were chatting with her afterwards about anime, and she said that this is the one she's been into lately. And here's the thing. I love cooking shows. I love high school dramas. I like anime battles. So this basically ticks all those boxes. And one of the things that got me the most amusedly interested was that she described one of the big things with the show is that people's reactions when they taste test the food is that their clothes explode. So that kind of sets a tone for what to expect. That it is somewhat sexual. A lot of times the reaction's a little bit orgasmic, and there's some fan service involved. Definitely a lot with the girls, but they will do it with the guys too. So it's just, but yeah, so just be forewarned. It's funny. It's a comedic effect. You know what? Like food is a very sensual experience. So you know what? There's interconnection. Chocolate alone is a reason why food a good example of how food is essential. So yeah. So I would describe the general vibe of the show as similar to Kakeguri if you've ever seen either the anime or the live action, which are both on Netflix at the moment. The anime just actually got a second season posted, which I haven't watched yet, but I have watched the first season of both. Anyways, so it's Kakeguri crossed with a cooking show, crossed with like some sort of battle system. So the premise is that the main character, Yukihiro Soma, works in a diner with his dad. It's a really well-beloved diner, and his dream is to one day surpass his dad and own the family diner. And the thing is that he will always be challenging his dad to cooking contests, and he always loses. And at one point, they're like, "Oh yeah, you challenged me 489 times, and you've never won." But they later on describe him like as a good idea to get a good idea of Yukihira is that he is the ultimate sword loser. Like he definitely wants to win. Like you can't tell him he's not going to win, even though all the cards are stacked against him. He's going to still work as hard as and try thinking as hard as through it and be creative, and he's still going to try his best, and he's not going to let a loss stick with him, and he's going to be gung-ho to get a rematch and prove himself. So he's always working on improving himself. So even though there is some natural skill, when he gets to the school, which I will talk about in a moment, his skills, his natural talent is not on the same scale as a lot of the prodigies at his school. But he has the determination and work ethic to figure out. And he also has the adaptability that I think sometimes the other people are lacking. Because he's used to being in the diner where like you've got to adapt to customers. There's gonna be a constant flow of people, and there's just he has a lot of benefits from being the fact that he's just from a diner. When later on his dad decides to close down the diner to go travel for a bit and send Yukihira to this elite culinary high school. Let me look up the name because I forgot what it is. It is, give me one, Totsuki. Yeah, Totsuki Academy, where it's ridiculously elite. Like there's tied, basically if you manage to successfully graduate from the school, you are basically made. Like you are all these doors will open to you in the culinary world. There's so many opportunities just from being known as being an alumni. Uh, like they're known worldwide. Like there's people who have like Michelin's stars and people in all sorts of levels of the food industry, like high up in the food industry, and also like they own the school itself. Like has connections like to resorts and restaurants, and there's at one point where they're like, oh yeah, this is our special train going to these special locations that we own as the school. So it's got ridiculous resources and ridiculous clout, but there's definitely elitism because of all that. And here's the thing, he's pretty much everyone in the high school has been going there since at least junior high, and most of them are like from like world-class restaurants, like Michelin star places, like ridiculously high-bred, like they have like high-bred like culinary skills in their family, and that like that's most of them, and like pretty much all of them have been there at least since junior high, if not earlier. So like as I said, like elite breeding plus having been at the school already. So he's the only transfer student. So that's already, he stands out for that. He's from a diner, so he's considered a B grade gourmet. Also, at the opening speech, he decides to basically insult everyone by saying how he's going to be the #1 student and how he's not going to lose to a bunch of people who've never even served a real customer. So he just basically pisses everyone off and alienates everyone from the get-go and has everyone rooting against him from the start. And he is then assigned to Polar Star Dormitory, where he meets quirky group of people who become his friends, include there's a whole bunch of different people like who have different specialties. Like one person's into fermentation, he's a fermentation expert. One person's into like smoking things. There's a girl who's really into her game animals. And there's one guy who it's basically the only second year we see it and there, who is usually just in an apron and nothing else, and he loves the beauty of youth and just the bonding experiences. But he's basically, you kind of just roll with him being typically naked. Guess so there's a lot of fan service, but as I said, there is males being portrayed in the fan service as well, so it's not just females. And yeah, people do definitely react to the fact that they're just like seeing his bare butt when he's in an apron, and everyone else is acting normal about it. And then also the other main person of interest is Megumi, or Todoroki Megumi, who's from a harbor town, and she's very much, her style is very like hospitality oriented and like very homely and about using like her regional local ingredients. So like she's one of those people who has like zero confidence. She's so nervous that she's like barely passing her class and like basically has the lowest scores. But when she's outside of a classroom context, she is actually really good at cooking. And she's like an important recurring character. And she, as I like, if you think of her as just being hospitality oriented, it kind of gives you an idea of her nature. And like, she's definitely a very important character. And I suspect is going to someday be the love interest if he ever actually develops one. Even though there's definitely a couple of people who have their hat thrown in for potential love interest. It's not a harem anime, though. There's definitely a couple girls who have crushes on him, but it's not a harem anime where it's like every female character is falling for him. But, so, yeah, and one of the important things with the school is that there's something called the Elite 10. So they're basically the top 10 students in the school, and they basically have equal power to the director. So they can even overrule things that the teachers say. And so very little of the show is actually about the classes. It's mostly about these challenges that people have to do, and also these things called Shokugeki, which is part of the Japanese title, which is a food battle, where basically there's a couple criteria that have to be met. Both sides have to agree to it. There has to be an odd number of judges, and there has to be this agreed upon fee. And basically people will put major things up at stake. It's like, oh, I'm going to offer up the building for my research society, which is basically like school club. And if I lose, you get it. If I win, then you have to join. Or a lot of people will be like, will put themselves up, will be put up for expulsion if they lose, and like if you lose, that's it. Like you're out. Also, another way, that's how a lot of times people can get onto the Elite 10 as well, is if they challenge one of the members. But as I said, you gotta have something worthwhile from the wager to battle you against. So they don't have to say yes just because you ask for it. So that's an important dynamic. But as I said, like there's also insane cooking challenges, and yeah, the director says at the end of the first year, only about 10% of the students are still there. By graduation, you can count on your fingers how many people have graduated. So yeah, just to give you an idea of the intensity, and like it's funny, like there's very little, as I said, there's very little of the actual cooking, like the teachers actually teaching it. It's mostly they're learning through their battles. Like they learn through about other people's expertise or something. It's like you'll learn about, you fight the spice guy. It's like, oh, I learned about spices this time, or oh, I find a person who's really good with gastronomy. I'm gonna try playing with temperature suits. Like you kind of like learn some cool. He learns cool things along the way. And like I said, like people do definitely grow, and there are ridiculous challenges, and like the major arcs are a lot of times like one of those major challenges. Like there's the Camp from Hell, where in several days where like they barely survive these challenges. Or there's this stagiaire, if I remember correctly, where they have to spend a week at a local restaurant, and if they have to, one, not get fired, but also they have to make an impact while they're there. So it's like you can't just coast through. You got to actually go above and beyond to actually move along. So like I said, like there's all these ridiculous things where like people get whittled, and it's like if you're expelled, like there's no argument, you're gone. So it's very interesting. It's of course there's the fun eclectic group of characters. Some of the adversaries, I'm not gonna say enemies because a lot of these adversaries will become allies at times. There's most infamously there's Irna, who she is described as having the god tongue because she can taste everything. So she basically has perfect sense of taste, and she's the director's granddaughter. So she's basically been served only the best gourmet food her whole life. She's been a taste tester, and she's able to make and break businesses her whole life. And so even though she's just a brand new first year, she's already the 10th seed of the Elite 10. There's also Takumi Aldini of the two Aldini brothers, who are Italian chefs. They're cool because they also come from a restaurant family, so they are from a trattoria in Italy, and I'm rooting for the younger brother to like come into his own more. Like I'm tired of him being support characters. I like the younger brother. I want him to score, but like he's insistent on wanting to like have a rematch with Yukihira. There's Mito-san, who she has other names, but that's just the one that sticks in my mind the most. I think she's supposed to be American because she is either that or she's. I just learned this term today from watching a different anime, Gyaru, where like it's either she's American or she's has the aesthetic where she has like the super tan skin and the bleach hair. But part of the reason why I think she's American is because one, her expertise is meat, but also she's usually wearing like pretty much just a bikini top and short shorts, and the bikini top is usually a U.S. flag design to it. Or we saw her trying to test out other ones, and like one was like a cowboy style. So it's like it's definitely, if she's not American, she's definitely very much into American inspired stuff. But like, she's actually one of my favorite characters. Like she is a badass. And the thing is that she does have a crush on Yukihira, but she is really badass. Another one of my favorite characters is Ishiki Senpai, who is the second year I was talking about, who's usually in an apron, but like he's like so loving and just wants to be a good like mentor to the other students in this dormitory. And like she's loving, and it's like he basically just his dream. He just wants to enjoy his youth, and like he wants to like just enjoy having their local farm and just working together. And it's just like, oh, you're such a sweetheart. So yeah, Mita-san. Trying to think. There's Alice and Rio. I think it's Rio. I can't remember his last name. I think it's Tsukumi. or no, it's not Takumi, it's something else, but Alice is Irina's cousin, but she's half Scandinavian, and when she kept on not feeling she could compete with Irina, she decided to studying Scandinavian, learn gastronomy. So she's really good at gastronomy, but she's very cheerful. She is also really self-absorbed, but I do like her attitude. And then Rio is basically her aide because she decided to get an aide because Irina had an aide, and he's got this split personality where he's really, really like low-key and mellow, although he's very confident cooking, but as soon as he's ready to cook, he'll tie in his bandana, and he's totally like a hostile punk who's just like super fiery personality, and like it's amusing. I love Japanese split personality characters. Like I was actually thinking about Air Gears recently. I'm like, it's like I love the split personality characters. So yeah. So anyways, like those are just examples of some of the random cast. Oh, and there's a guy who's has a perfect sense of smell, who's into spices. So I said like there's all sorts of people who are adversaries who sometimes cross the line to being allies. So yeah, it's interesting and it's fun. And I honestly like when there's that gray area with characters. Like I don't like necessarily straight up villains. I like it when it's complicated characters, when it's adversarial rather than straight up villain. Like Sesshomaru and Inuyasha. It's like, you know what, he's more so an adversary than the villain. So that's one of the things. And so yeah, it's a fun show. One of the big things though I have to talk about, like, it is such food porn watching it. Like they are, it's beautiful. Like the animation for the food, like it definitely makes you want to try that food. Like some of these things are things I never heard of, or things I want to find a source of. And it's like, and the knowledge base is like ridiculous. Like I'm assuming it's accurate. Like as far as I can tell from all the cooking shows, it seems pretty accurate. I could be wrong, but like it definitely is. It's definitely a foodie is heavily involved with this. So yeah, it's definitely got some good food porn and food knowledge mixed in. Although a lot of it's like elite gourmet stuff. Like there's a point where like they're making soba noodles and they're talking about the different types of soba or buckwheat flour used in soba noodles. So yeah, and then the other thing I said I had to go back into is the reactions. So I said there is people will definitely like get the flush faces and be like, oh, I can't contain myself, and like the clothes get skimpier, or they're somewhat tastefully naked. You never see anything vulgar, but yeah, it's like that's definitely pretty common when like someone makes something good. And actually, the director is infamous for the chest exploding of his clothes, and actually, it's apparently an inherited ability with his son, where if it's so good, they can make other people's clothes explode off also in real life, like not just in their imagination. It's referred to as the gift, which is great. But also like they'll do like beautiful things. Like it'll be like, oh, it's I feel like a mermaid, or they'll do lots of great anime references. Like I remember there was like a cabbage based dish, and basically like it was the whole Sailor Moon reference where like all the judges like were like cabbage red, cabbage blue, and like they're all like in different Sailor Moon outfits, including this super buff guy. So it was awesome. Or like they'll have like other random anime references, like the significant other recognized like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventures reference. There was a Girl Who Loved Through Time reference, which is one of my favorite anime movies, period. So it's like I said, like there's definitely a lot of those little fun Easter eggs. But yeah, like they'll do beautiful things. They'll also do if something's kind of, he'll also make disgusting food on purpose, like which his dad would do too, just kind of like just in the midst of experiments. And like usually it's squid based, and like he did squid with peanut butter, and like whenever he gives that and he does it, he enjoys perversely giving it to people and seeing their reactions. Like the girls will be like, it's like I was being groped and molested by by a octopus or the squid tentacles. So yeah, it definitely goes in both directions. But yeah, so there's some stuff where it's like it's not necessarily as the reactions are sometimes like more not necessarily as lovely and like I said, like it's definitely very fanciful, and like they don't just use the same formula. Like they're definitely very creative each time they do it, and they go into such in depth with like the judging about describing what the food. And one of the interesting things is like I know that umami is a more recent concept from Japan that's crossed over into the U.S., but they are obsessed with the umami of things, and this anime, which is fascinating, especially since they'll talk about like the different umami components. Like they'll be like, oh, the glutamic acid from this or this, and like how they combine, and like so they're very much like there is a lot of like scientific perspective, like the fact that there's like they are so obsessed with umami, like they know the compounds that create it and like why they're enhanced and so it's very cool. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I've been watching it through less than legitimate means, but it is on Crunchyroll, which is how my source told me about it. And apparently it started just recently airing on Toonami, so something I just found out recently is actually on trend. I think I might actually be farther ahead than probably the people watching on Toonami right now, so there's that. But like on Adult Swim, it definitely would not be daytime safe. Not with that level of fan service. But yeah, it's yeah. Also, so we watched, our source like broke it, said it was 4 seasons, but I think it's just like the 3rd season I think was just the broken up in 2 halves. So it still said plate 3 when we were finished up. So we finished up plate 3. I hear that plate 4, like season 4, is supposed to start up in the fall in Japan. So I think October is what I remember reading. So there's still more. So there's still more episodes to come, and a lot of people are suspecting that the show is going to be wrapping up soon because the manga is going to be wrapping up. But I read ahead to see overview of the anime, so just so I have Wikipedia level of overview knowledge, not heavy duty. But I'm guessing that there might be one more season after that because like they definitely ended in the middle of a major arc, and I know that there's another arc that's got to come after this. So yeah. Anyways, I highly encourage it. As I said, it's fun. You definitely have to have like the right kind of adult humor to be able to like just roll with the fact that like the sheer level of absurd reactions. And as I said, like there are clothes exploding, but it's awesome. Also, as I said, like if you're a food fan, like if you like cooking shows or just enjoy like looking at really tasty food, this is really good. It's a really beautiful anime. Like I said, like it makes the food super tasty looking, and like I said, like I'm like I want to try that. Like there's certain dishes I'm like I've never heard of that. I want to try finding that. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend. Yeah, as I said, Kakeguri is like the main other show I can think of that's similar, where like it's gambling based, but like so it's another one of the shows where it's like it's the weird thing where like the high school like the classes don't matter. It's more so about the high school council and like how the rules of like what goes on in the school is based off of some. So like in Kakeguri, it's a gambling, and Food Wars, aka Shokugeki no Soma, it is cooking. So yeah. Alright, anyways, this is one of my longer videos. Sorry about that, guys, but I love this show. I enjoyed binge watching it, and that's it. I watched all of it in like a week and a half, which is pretty impressive considering that we don't watch that much stuff together these days. Alright, talk to you guys later. Enjoy. Watch it. Watch it. Subliminal messages to watch it. Alright, until next time. Bye. Come on.